Hello, everyone. I am your host, Anna-Jeannine Kemper, and thank you for joining me this afternoon for a little chit chat with the cast and crew of Clue. We are running 1 week from today, we open, and that will be running on select evenings from March 5th through March 13th, with one matinee in the middle on March 7th. Like I said, we're opening just 1 week from today, and tickets are now available at tinyurl/UA Clue. And I've made this high-tech sign for you to see. So let me start out by introducing my guests today. There are 5 of us here, and all of us are involved in the production. I'm the production manager, but I'm also joined by our stage manager, as well as 3 members of our cast. Some people who you've met before, but some who are newcomers to the University of Akron stage, either this year or to this show in particular. So first, everybody, I'm going to just go around and ask for each of you to introduce yourself. Let us know what's your name, what's your major, and what is your first memory of the theater? I'll start with you, Lysander.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lysander Mills. I am a theater arts major. This will be my last show at the University of Akron. Uh, so my first memory of theater, I remember very vividly hating it, basically from middle school up until when I did my first show. Um, I just remember thinking, oh, it's all tacky, it's all schmarmy, and here I am being all tacky and all schmarmy.
Well, all right. I hope things have improved since then. What about you, Arianna? I'm going to unmute you. Or actually, I guess you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. My name is Arianna. I'm the assistant stage manager, and you can mute yourself. Mute your computer, please. Thank you. Um, my first memory, my first fond memory of theater was I did my first high school production, and I was in 7th grade, and I was like, these are my people. This is what I want to do. Because it was like everyone was weird and laughing and smiling, and I was like, yes, this is what I want. And
So it sounds like you had a real find your tribe kind of moment, huh?
yeah.
It's this merry band of ragtag misfits. Okay, well, I'm always happy to hear that story. I feel like that's my story too. What about you, Cennidie?
My uncle took me to see Les Mis at Playhouse Square in Cleveland, and I just never stopped loving it after that.
That's right. I remember that story. Your uncle has been a long time source of inspiration to you, both on stage, off stage, and in life. I know. So I'm glad to hear that story again. And then finally, Miss Tia Jones, who is new to the University of Akron stage and who has snagged an iconic role as Miss Scarlet. I couldn't be happier to see that story for you, Tia. So tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what drew you to the theater.
Well, as you said, my name is Tia Jones, and my major is theater arts. And what drew me to the theater probably would have to be watching movies as a kid. And then when I got to see my first actual live performance, it was The Crucible, and it was 9th grade. And just seeing how everything came together, I knew I had to do that.
The Crucible is sort of a spooky story that's got so much history in it, and I love seeing it brought to life on the stage. I think that really is the way to learn that particular story, and it's an important story for us all to know. So moving right along, I will say, everybody out there in Facebook land, if you're just joining me, Clue at the University of Akron opens 1 week from today, and tickets are now on sale at tinyurl.com/UA Clue. So go get tickets. I'm talking with the cast and crew right now. So what is your best tip, each of you, to get off book? This is a common question that we hear at talkbacks, and so it seems like acquiring minds really want to know. So I always want to make sure to ask you guys, because everybody out there who's watching wants to know, how do you memorize these lines? Arianna, I'm going to start with you.
The way I um, memorize lines. It's not that refined, but I read it once, close a book, say it out loud once, read it, say it out loud. And then I am just run it kind of person. Even when I'm running lines when I'm making other people run lines, I'm like, great, do it again. Okay, great, do it again. Great, do it again. And that's just how I just drill it into your brain, and that's just how I learned how to my lines.
That's a pretty good tip. Rote memorization and drilling it down. What about you, Cennidie?
I don't. That's why I'm the stage manager. I'm so bad at learning lines. Like I just can't. I guess I write them down multiple times, or I guess I do like voice recordings, but I tend to stay backstage for that exact reason.
Just as a reminder, everyone, this is Cennidie, who is one of only 6 people in the Waves last term, so who presumably memorized approximately 1/6 of the script all by herself. So I think you're underselling yourself just a little bit, Cennidie, but I'll take your word for it. What about you, Lysander?
Well, a good playwright will make sure every line is important. So uh, it's always good to realize what needs to be said in this scene. And
Lysander,
for
I
me,
think that is such an interesting distinction, talking about going back to the subject matter that's in the scene and letting it be your anchor to propel you to the next moment. That's great acting advice. That's not just memorization advice there.
thank
And
you.
finally, what about you, Tia?
For me, I kind of take to it as like a book, so I will read the scene one through whatever over and over, and I often kind of find myself remembering other people's lines, so I kind of can go along with the conversation as it happens.
That makes a lot of sense. Really, truly listening to your scene partner and hearing what they're saying, and then just, giving the response to that. That's very similar, I think, to what Lysander's angle there was. That it's a matter of playing the moment of life as it's happening on the stage. Just a reminder to everyone who is watching: if you have questions for our cast and crew, I said cast and clue. That was a great Freudian slip. For anyone who has questions for our cast and crew, make a comment on this video and we might ask your question live. Next, I'll ask, what are each of your career plans after school? So all four of you are theater majors of some kind, or some of you have specialties that you're working on, but all 4 of you are theater majors. Cennidie, I know a little bit more about your plans after school is over, but I know that not everyone shares my common conversations with you. So I'll let you go ahead and go first. And then Arianna, I will have you go last. That way you guys won't have so many microphone lap things. I'll quit doing that to the 2 of you. So Cennidie, go right ahead.
It's a really great question. I mean, I'm going into a housing market during a pandemic and a job market during a pandemic. So I don't know. I just want to work in theater. I just want to help people amplify voices. I'm definitely moving to the Cleveland area. And so my goal is to get involved anywhere and everywhere I can. And in the past, I thought I wanted to do more administrative, but a lot of the work I've done my senior year, I've learned I just want to be part of it, whether it's costumes or building the set or stage managing. So I just want I want my name to be part of it.
And Tia, what about you? What do you think?
To be honest, because this is my first time kind of picking something that I actually want to further with, before in school is kind of just general of everything. I have thought about, working in the theater realm. I've actually kind of been admiring kind of Cennidie and Arianna, how like they're more behind the scenes. I don't think I'm there yet in terms of being structured in that. But I plan to continue to go to school and then just hone in on my skills.
That's great. Plans start with dreams, and it's okay to just dream where you are right now. So it sounds like you've got a firm foundation of a plan from where you're going. What about you, Lysander?
So I'm currently doing an apprenticeship with RCT for theater education.
For those of you who don't know, RCT stands for Rubber City Theater. Its artistic director is directing Clue, and they have just become an equity house. So big moves for Rubber City Theater, even over the pandemic. Go ahead, Lysander.
Yes, and Dane, the director, was gracious enough to allow me to teach there. And honestly, that is what I want to be doing with my life. I really want to be teaching kids theater because when I grew up, I never had that privilege or the opportunity to do so, especially in my area. But also, I want to keep acting, but I really want to teach.
Wonderful. And finally, Arianna, you get a turn.
So a part of me still wants to keep. I want to try going into film and doing more film stuff, but I still want to keep going into local theaters and just do anything and everything I can for that theater, and just doing everything. I just love everything about theater, so I'll do anything.
I think a lot of you have shared sentiments that I've certainly had throughout my career. So I have a question from a member of our extended audience. This is a person who isn't even local, and I'll tell you why I know the person is not local. It is because it is Stephen Matthew Neal, my very best friend from college, has tuned into this broadcast. Stephen, we're so happy to welcome you, and I miss you a whole lot, and I wish my wedding would happen soon so that I could see you in person. And I hope that your new dog is doing well. Your dog is beautiful, and I love your dog. Stephen asks, what was the casting process like for Clue? Specifically, he asked, was it online or live? Was it videotaped? So who wants to answer that question? Anyone is welcome. Actually, Cennidie, I want to hear from you after one of the actors describes it. How about that? Why don't one of you actors say what the experience was like for you, and then Cennidie will talk about the nuts and bolts part.
So the process was online. It was simply a cold read. Nothing more than that. Quick, simple, and to the point.
So for those of you who don't speak theater jargon, a cold read is when you're given a piece of text from a book that you haven't necessarily read before. So in the case of Clue, it was excerpts from the script of Clue. Participants weren't necessarily asked to prepare monologue, right, Cennidie? Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else to add? Yeah.
Yeah. So we it was on Zoom. They signed up, I think, on like signup.com, and then we just met in like Zoom, and then there we had like sessions of groups of people, and we just were like, hey, try this part. All right, I want to hear this person doing this, and we just Dana and I, the director, we just we were all in our rooms, everything like that. It was all virtual, but we got a really great cast from it. So
there are advantages and disadvantages to having cold readings versus prepared readings, and you could have a whole series of talks just about that. But for logistical purposes, it certainly is easy to it is easy to hear, an applicant speak the words of the character, right then and there, easy peasy, and even have them interact with each other. So I think that that's great right now, especially as we're dealing with some stuff at a distance. So to be able to kind of make that connection with the characters, even though you can't necessarily make the connection with having a person in a room with you, for that audition process was really great. And now the University of Akron is back to a place where we actually have you guys on stage together. So for anyone who hasn't realized this at this point, the University of Akron's Clue on Stage will be on a stage. Our audience won't be there with us. You guys will be on the internet watching the show streaming, but I'll tell you what, your seat might be better watching the stream than it would be in a theater anyway. So I think there's something kind of cool to be said about that. So Stephen, I hope that answers your question. We were so happy to see you, and we will talk to you again soon. If anybody else out there has a question from Facebook land, please drop it in the comments and I will try to get it up if I can. For those of you who are just joining us, Clue opens one day from today, and you can get more information about the production, tickets. You'll be able to see the program up there pretty soon at tinyurl.com/UA Clue. So what kind of play is Clue? Can somebody tell me some adjectives and what I should expect if I'm thinking about coming to see it and I've never heard of it before? Okay, I'll start. It's a mystery. Anyone else?
A very fast play.
It is very fast paced. There's a lot of jokes, and you have to keep your ears open to catch all of them the first time. You might watch this show 2 or 3 times and realize that they're telling jokes that you didn't get the first couple times through. Anybody else have anything to add? Arianna, what do you think? You look like you're thinking something.
I just think it's a comedy, a mystery. It's fast, like you said, and I just think it's really fun and like much better than
Now, we all had a little talk, kind of backstage before we went live with this feed. And I told them, I said, guys, no spoilers. Don't tell them who did it, because this is a whodunit. So don't tell them who done it. So it's hard to describe the play and kind of tiptoe around those things. I know, you guys. But so it's like, tell me some stuff about, like, where is it set? When is it set? Who are some of the main characters, and tell me about them a little bit. Why don't each of you tell me about the characters that you play? Tia, I'll start with you.
Well, it's set in the 1954, I believe. And it is it's in Washington, D.C. at a nice manor. And a little bit more about my character, Miss Scarlet. I play a entrepreneur, I guess you could say, who is more about getting into people's darkest secrets and using it against them.
Yeah, she certainly is a small businesswoman of great fame or infamy, depending on who you talk to, right? Arianna, what about you? Who are you playing?
I play the cook.
Oh, the cook, that's right.
And I think she's very mysterious. Just shows up whenever lightning strikes. Been having a lot of fun with that, and I don't show up much, but so that's all I can give you.
Okay, great. And Lysander, what about you?
So I play Wadsworth in the show. Wadsworth is the butler of the manor, sorry. Pardon me. He's very tight, for lack of better words. He's very reserved in the way that he talks to people and how he navigates through the scenes. He acts as sort of the figurehead for the house. So, yes, he's very mysterious and kind of just tight. He's tight. He's very tight. It's fun.
Butler do?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I said, what does a butler do?
They buttle.
They buttle. What does it mean? Do you know?
They buttle.
Yeah. I love it when he says that, though. It's one of my favorite lines in the play or in the movie. How many of you have seen the film Clue? So this was a cult classic in the mid 1980s, and most of the the impressions that we have of these iconic roles are from that film, and not necessarily from the board game. Though we'll talk about the board game in just a minute too. But how many of you, show of hands, have seen this film? Only 2 of you. I'm so surprised. So I think that it's great. It's great fun for a Friday night. It's on Amazon Prime if anybody wants to watch it. I watched it with my son before before my Clue went live, I was just in another production of this same script a couple of weekends ago. Last weekend, I guess. So I played Mrs. White, who was a lot of fun. And okay, so my next question is, how many of you have played the board game? Only one. This is shocking. So the Clue, the board game, was my favorite board game growing up. And it was really, my mother is not so much into playing board games. It was really one of the only board games that she would play with me. I think that she likes that kind of, mystery element that it has. And I always liked that it had that little, it has this little tiny envelope that looks like a top secret envelope. I think it has confidential stamped on it or something like that. And to me, that was like just the coolest board game piece that I had ever seen up to that point. You know, everything else is like those same little, you know, token things that are shaped like this, and like die and cards, and the little props that the Clue board game has are thrilling for a little theater kid who hasn't had a lot of contact with real props yet, I guess. Another question from our audience. This one is from Tia Fenice. She says, are all of the Clue characters depicted in your version of the play? And Tia, I am going to guess that you probably mean the 6 colorful characters, as I call them, which would be Colonel Mustard, Professor Plum, Mr. Green, Mrs. Peacock, Mrs. White, and Miss Scarlet. I'm assuming those are the 6 you mean? So what's the answer, guys? Are all 6 of those depicted? Yes, they all made it in, all 6. So whichever one is your favorite, you can count on seeing them in the show. So we hope you'll join us as well. And this one is from one of your castmates. Jared Vullo, who plays Professor Plum, asks, do any of you find it difficult to come back to the physical stage after being stuck online for almost a year after the pandemic started? Jared, great question. What do you guys have to say to that?
So something that I learned while talking to a professional from Atlanta, he said, no matter what, don't stop acting. It doesn't matter in what scenario you're in, do not stop acting. Now, I'm not saying everybody go out and do live theater like I'm saying right now, but I personally never stopped acting during this point. I mean, yes, it's still a little hard to interact with someone who's in the room with you, but if you're still keeping at the craft, it doesn't really go away that easily.
Yeah, absolutely. I know everyone I know who acts is like chomping at the bit to get back on a real stage. And the Waves are folks who are in the Waves. We've got 3 of them in our room right now. Jared, Arianna, Lysander, and Cennidie were all in the University of Akron's fall production of Virginia Woolf's The Waves, which was adapted for the virtual stage by the director Brian Schultes. It was sort of a similar situation that the actors were together in the same space, but the audience was distant. I think we had considered doing it kind of in Zoom if that was necessary, but they were able to find a way to come together in the same physical space. And we broadcast from ZTV's studios at the University of Akron, which is close to our proscenium theater, the Paul Daum Theater over in, what is it, Colby Hall? WZIP is not WZIP. Where do I get this stuff? ZTV is over in Colby Hall. Isn't it like right near Paul Daum Theater?
They both are.
So Jared, I know that you're not a University of Akron student, right? So you probably aren't super familiar with our campus, but it's not too awfully far away from Gazetta. It's a few buildings over past the library. And that's where they perform from. We had hoped to do it from the stage, but the stage was undergoing some renovations at the time that we were doing the broadcast. So we were taken in by the generous people at ZTV Studios, and they let us come and perform our show there and broadcast. Okay, that's all from the audience for right now. So I'm going to go back and I'll say, for those of you who are just joining us, don't forget that Clue at the University of Akron opens 1 week from today. Learn more, learn about tickets at www.tinyurl.com/UA Clue. We want to see you there. So each of you, I want to know what made you want to audition for Clue? And for Cennidie, I'll say, what made you want to stage manage for Clue? How did you guys all end up here together? Tia, I'm going to start with you.
Well, it was around the beginning of the semester, and Arianna had texted me and was like, "Are you gonna audition?" And I was like, "Audition for what?" And then she sent me the email and everything. And I was like, "Heck yes, I am." And I set my time, and then I read through the script, and right then and there, I knew I had to be Miss Scarlet.
That is so great. Okay, I love a victory story when somebody gets just the part that they were wanting. I might ask you guys later, if you weren't playing the part you're playing, what's your second favorite part? I might ask you about that too, to know like what's your, range of things you're interested in too. Okay, Arianna, what about you? You were so interested, you even called your friends and asked them to audition too. So what made you interested in auditioning for Clue?
So I was the first one to audition for Clue. Like I had the first time. It was 2 days, and I had texted Tia on the second day, and to audition. So I thought that was funny. I you want to know what's my second?
No,
I had
first I want to know why you wanted to audition for Clue, and then I want to know, yeah, who would you be if you weren't you?
I sorry, you were muted on both of our computers. I auditioned for Miss Scarlet, and that's the part that I wanted. But I also wanted the Singing Telegram Girl because I watched it online, and I was like, if I don't get Miss Scarlet, I want Singing Telegram Girl. I want to die. You watched the movie. I want to sing. I want that part. So I got the part that I wanted, but I also wouldn't have minded Miss Scarlet either.
They're all such wonderful parts. What about you, Tia? If you hadn't ended up as Miss Scarlet, what's another part that you would have really enjoyed?
It was either Miss Scarlet or Yvette, the maid. I just kind of liked her French accent.
Those are great. They're both great roles. I mean, there's not even we have some folks that are designated as like ensemble in the program, but I'll tell you guys a secret. We say ensemble because we don't want to tell you what their roles are. It's secret surprise. It's not like being, the girl, the third one from the left carrying a rose, in a ballet or something like that. It's more like these are small but very memorable and very fun roles that you're going to remember for a long time. So once you see this show, you're going to be saying, Arianna was listed as ensemble, but why didn't they list her as, all these things she played? And it's because we want there to be a little bit of a surprise for you. So some of you guys who are watching this broadcast right now, some secrets that not everybody who's reading the program before the show is going to know. So we want to bring you into the loop. Lysander, what about you? What made you want to audition for the show? And if you were playing a character besides Wadsworth the butler, which is the role that you wish that you would get to play?
So often when I audition for a show, I don't really look for a particular part. I look for a specific director. And in this case, I wanted to work with Dane as a director, who I've never had as a director before. So when I went in more or less with any character in mind. I think it would have been fun to play Colonel Mustard because I believe in the play version, he's much funnier than the movie version. I said it.
Hey, you're allowed to say more funny or less funny than the movie version. Yeah, Colonel Mustard is so it's like real slapstick part. There's just like a lot of like it seems like every other line of his is a joke of him, playing that classic like straight man trope, where he's like not aware of what's happening and is there's a like level of naivete to it that's really quite funny. Now, Cennidie, what made you want to stage manage this show? And I don't even have to say if you weren't playing your current part. If you were gonna play a part in Clue, which one would you like to play?
I've actually had this conversation with like the director himself, so first, the reason I wanted to stage manage, I had a class with Dane last semester, and I'm also an apprentice with Sander at his theater, and I just really like Dane, so I wanted to see what his directing style was like. It's beautiful, by the way. We have a lot of fun, too much fun, honestly. But I also, we have done a lot of like darker shows at the university, and so I was excited to do something that was funny and kind of kept the spirits up with all the things going on around us.
True.
And then I get torn between Miss Scarlet and Miss White, or Mrs. Scarlet and Mrs. White, because Scarlet, she can hold her own, and she doesn't let a man do anything or tell her anything. But Mrs. White also has that great line about men being strong and disposable. So
Husbands should be like Kleenex, soft, strong, and disposable, she says. Yeah, Mrs. White is I had a hard time. I wouldn't have been able to tell you, prior to my own audition, which role I would like to play. I was asked to submit a video, and I submitted video of three of the four, larger female roles. So yeah, I was like, take your pick. I was cast as Miss White. And I was cast opposite to, I would have loved to play Miss Scarlet. I was cast opposite to a Miss Scarlet. I know some of you know Katie Wells, who's just wonderful. She was so good. And I was so happy. I was so happy to play Miss White to a Miss Scarlet who was so good, because she hit every joke, every moment, and was so believable, like had authority in the character. I don't know how to say that really better than that, but she is Miss Scarlet is the girl boss. So, I mean, you're not looking for a shirking Violet to play that role. And she brought a real power to it. Katie, if you're out there, I've got so much love for you, girl. So if you're just joining us, Clue at the University of Akron opens 1 week from today. Go get tickets, learn more about the show at tinyurl.com/UAClue. So how is the character that you're currently playing similar or different to characters that you've played in the past? Lysander, you have more experience on the stage at the University of Akron than anybody else in this room. So I'm going to start with you. You've played quite a few different characters, in plays that I've seen. And I know that there have been more before I came along. So tell me about some of those and how you've picked up on some skills that you're using to play Wadsworth, or how some of them are just a complete foil to what Wadsworth is.
So if you look through my bio, you notice there is a certain type of character I seem to keep playing. Take that as you will. But as I said earlier, he's a lot more tight and reserved. And I don't really want to go into too much about it without spoiling, obviously. But
understand.
Yeah, so for me, I have had to downplay it quite a bit as compared to prior shows.
Yeah, I mean, there has been some kind of big bad guys that you've played. Okay, so we know that Lysander can be scary, and we know that Lysander can be reserved too. In terms of you, it sounds like you I hope you don't think that you've been typecast, because that's not it at all. You've got so much range. We all know you've got so much range. But Cennidie, I think you're right that there's been we've done a lot of really serious drama in recent years, and not a lot of comedy. And so you can't get a comedic role in a sea of dramas. So that's, I think that's, take it with a grain of salt there, Lysander. All right, Tia, what about you? Have you been in a play before? Okay.
So one of the first plays I was ever in was Peter Pan, and I was Wendy. So it's kind of like the exact opposite of Miss Scarlet.
Yeah.
And one thing,
you're not going to the same parties, huh?
Yeah. And one thing new about Miss Scarlet is like kind of her cunningness in the way she carries herself and the way she commands the space that she's in. I'm not normally like that, and I've never really played a character like that, so it's interesting to like get into that.
That's good. And Arianna, what about you? I know you played Is it Ginny that you played in The Waves? Okay, it's amazing that I can remember that. Okay, so Arianna played Ginny in The Waves last semester, and then prior to that, you were in a play that I'm not familiar with when you were in high school. So tell us a little bit about that character, about those characters and how they compare to what you're doing now.
So Ginny specifically would have been closer to Miss Scarlet's character. It's completely different to the cook or the singing telegram girl. The plays that I did in high school were, oh man, it's been so long. It's been okay. So the last play I did, I always play either a mom or a grandma in high school. So this is different than anything that I've done before. Even with The Waves, I wasn't a mom or a grandma, which is a first for me. So it was just it was a different role to play, and I'm excited to explore it.
I will say some of that has to do with your cohorts, right? So if you're in a high school production and there are so many kids and there are so many parts and some of the parts are moms and grandmas, but everybody's between 14 and 18 years old. Yeah, you're going to get some 17-year-olds who get cast as somebody's grandmother. But once you graduate and you're working in a pool of a greater diversity of ages, you'll probably see that less. You'll probably see yourself being cast as your own age, and you'll get to enjoy that a little bit more. But relish in the fact that it probably means that you have a certain authenticity and genuineness that makes it possible for you to play somebody who's a little bit seasoned, more experienced.
I like to think that well, my parents run the drama department at my high school, so they are the ones who cast me as a mom or a grandma.
Great.
So
We can depend upon her to be mature.
Oh, turn on. Oh, shit. Sorry, what?
I said it's good to know that your parents think they can depend upon you to be mature, right?
Yeah, my dad even wrote the play junior year, and he wrote me in as a grandma. So
That's very cool. Talented family you come from there.
Yeah.
How is working on a virtual production different than working on just a regular stage play? What are some of the things that you guys have noticed? I've noticed lots of ways, not just how it's different than working on a traditional stage play, but how even working on The Waves was really, really different than working on Clue. And it's not just because it's a different script and it's a different director. There's more to it than that. What are some things that some of you guys have noticed over the transition to doing some things more virtually lately?
Sorry. I would say that for the show, the difference is that other than how our audience is seeing it, we've played it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot more hand sanitizer involved, but we've rehearsed the same way we would if we weren't in a pandemic. So I do know that yes, ZTV is in there right now. I'm outside the theater because we're building the set, but they were in there just now, hooking up the cameras and all of that stuff. And so, I mean, as a stage manager, my calls are going to be different because I'm going to have to say, camera one, go, or whatever. But my processes compared to The Waves when I stage managed that are completely different. I'm back to sitting and watching rehearsals every night in person, giving people pencils, giving them what they need, reading all of that stuff. So it's, other than the audience not being there, for me, it feels exactly the same.
Yeah, I wondered about that. With the exception of the cameras for this current show, it seems like things are going a lot more like what we would consider to be a traditional stage play. So how many cameras are there? 2, 3?
That's a great question. They're setting it up right now. I believe it's 3.
Tomorrow.
But I'm not sure.
I think we were hoping for 3, so hopefully it'll be 3 cameras, and if not, it'll be 2 cameras, and that's still really cool because it will allow us to see, some different perspectives, some closer up shots, and kind of get some neat elements of shifting perspective from that. I really like that and think that's something neat. You can't usually switch seats in the middle of the show in a real theater environment, but I mean, sometimes you can. Please, no one do that. Please don't anyone do that. Please don't start shifting seats. Anybody else have anything else they want to add to that question about the differences between virtual productions and more traditionally produced theater shows that you were in before? Arianna, go ahead.
I was thinking about it the other day, and we have a lot more space for the set, so that we don't have to accommodate for any audience to sit in there. So we can have a giant set to play around with, and I think it's really cool, especially with this clue set. You get to have different rooms that the audience doesn't have to be able to see, because they're
Oh.
not sitting in there in one spot to be able to see.
That is
So I
such
think
a
it's
great
really
point.
cool to be able to do this virtually, so everyone can see everything, and
That's
you
such
don't
a
have
great point.
to.
You know, so many companies that have gone remote over the pandemic have, you know, experienced like cost savings in utilities, or they're not having to house people in offices anymore, basically. And that's kind of a little bit related to what we're talking about. We don't have bodies that are filling up the area that we might have used for seating before, and so now we can just sprawl into the aisle. I would love for you guys to send me some pictures of the set going up. I'll put them right up on social media this afternoon if you send them to me. So as we're just wrapping up here, what are some final thoughts that you guys have that you want to share with everybody out there who's listening? Is there anything that you want to tell anybody that's really special? Do you want to make sure that they come see? Does anybody want to say hello to my mom? Hi, Mom. My mom is a big fan of Clue, and I hope she'll be watching with me and my little boy who loves Clue. We just got a nice message from Lisa Craig at the University of Akron, who works in our public relations department, I believe. She's the one who helps us send out press releases. And Lisa, we love you for it. Thank you so much for all your help. She says, just bought my ticket for the final performance. Yay. She says, for comedies, I buy into the idea that by that final performance, you will have your comedic timing perfected. So she has strategically chosen the night that she is going to attend, because she hopes that that will be the funniest night. And everybody who's out there, it will be live every night. So you will be watching a fresh performance each evening, which I just love. Cennidie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank our professors like Jim Slowiak, Chris Harrias, Danny Durst, Irene McSchaefer, and Adel Magid. Unfortunately, because of everything that happened with COVID, they no longer work at the university, but I know I can say that I wouldn't be able to do this show or any of them if it hadn't been for them. So I just wanted to.
There are so many people out there that have had such an impact on all of us as artists and as technicians that we are missing, and we hope that you guys will come see the show. We love you so much. Finally, to close, I will say Clue at the University of Akron opens 1 week from today, and it will be showing on that Friday, Saturday. Then there's a matinee on Sunday. Then we'll have a little bit of a break. We'll come back and we'll come up again on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday the following week. Tickets are $5, and that $5 ticket covers a stream for anyone who's watching on a single device. So if you've got 10 people in your house and you're having dinner and you're all watching on the same TV, it's just $5. So go ahead and head on over to www.tinyurl.com/UAClue to get your tickets, learn more about the show, and the program will be up sometime pretty soon. So you can check out biographies from the writer and from our actors and see about all the wonderful people who have made this production come together. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you, and come see Clue, find out who did it. Bye.